Hello and welcome to Candid. Now, I'm very passionate about this subject, hence us talking about it on the podcast. Because, if you don't live under a rock, you will know about the whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, what's it called, like trial? It's a civil trial, so it's not like, criminal. But, oh my God, I don't know where to start. I've not stopped talking to people about it all the time. I tell Dad against his will all the time. And it's just crazy. And I think, it's really important as well, before we get, really into it, to point out that, obviously, domestic abuse is a very serious subject. And I just personally feel, because I've been watching the whole trial that's been streamed, and I watch a lawyer that analyses it, I feel like Amber Heard is doing a disservice to actual victims of abuse.
So following on from what Leah said, I just want to kind of do this as a bit of a trigger warning. We are going to be talking about some really sensitive, horrible subjects like drug abuse, alcohol abuse, domestic abuse. So if obviously any of those things you're not comfortable listening to, then please go listen to another one of ours and we'll be back next week with something a bit different. However, within our podcast, we will, if we feel like something is worthy enough to talk about, or we just have an interest in talking about it, we will be doing rundown weekly reviews of stuff we do want to talk about. So these episodes will pop up more frequently, but again, like Leah said, this is something that she really felt that she wanted to talk about, and I have been watching it, but not as much as Leah. I usually watch it when I go to the gym. I watch the lawyer that Leah watches.
Suggested. Keeps pushing to people.
Yeah, she's a pusher, Leah. She's a pusher. But her name is Emily D. Baker, and we really recommend you go in and watching her channel. The team are amazing, and she really just breaks down everything. A lot of the stuff that I actually learned about this case was through TikTok in the beginning. TikTok has definitely picked up attraction regarding this case. So, if you're like me and you can't sometimes sit there and be able to watch 4-hour videos.
It's longer than that, actually. It's 8 hours.
Okay, well, I was just,
It's crazy.
But there are so many different forums about it. But we're just going to kind of talk about things that pointed out to us, things that we thought was quite important. And like Leah said, if you are not aware of this case, have you been under a rock? But just to kind of give a bit of a background, do you want to explain why this case is happening? I feel like you are.
Okay, I'll explain just quickly, guys. Just quickly, I'll give you a little bit of a breakdown. So basically, they were married. There's a lot of I think it was a very toxic relationship from the beginning, so I don't actually know why they even got married. I'm not saying that they're I'm just going to say my view is probably quite biased because I agree with Johnny's side. I don't believe Amber. I'm not saying he was perfect, but I just think crocodile tears. Sorry. I'm very passionate.
But that's where you think that she is doing a disservice, and so do I, to those who are actually victims of DV. That is why you are saying what you said, because there is so many, and I do think that this case and her actions are going to be detrimental to those who do experience it daily, because they will feel like they won't be able to speak out. Look at all the memes that are coming out of it. I literally, I know I interrupted you, but while it was in my head, I was like, can you talk about it? There is a clip where she says, I walked out my bedroom, and this is paraphrasing, I walked out my bedroom and he slapped me, and then I turned around and people were taking the mick that she's saying, what, she slapped behind you? So people are taking audio bites from the trial and actually taking the mick out of what she's saying. And I think that is just going to have such a negative impact on those that do want to speak out about it.
But then I do think, on the other hand, this could be quite good for men.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of the time, people don't believe men, and they think, you can be a victim from a woman. Do you know what I mean? And I just think it's so sad, because I think, in my personal opinion, I think that she probably thinks she'd win easy. She probably didn't think it'd even get to this far. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of things that we'll talk about coming up as to why we got to our point of view. I'm not saying he's perfect, because I've seen some of the text messages he sent, but I don't think, in my personal opinion, that he actually at least physically assaulted her. She's making some pretty big claims, And basically what happened when they had a divorce, how much was it that he paid her? Like
7 million. But from the video that we was watching earlier, that I was watching, it came up on TikTok, is that initially in the divorce proceedings, I think she started off at a lower number, and then she asked for more, and then she asked for more again. Hearsay. If you've watched the trial, you know that comes up a lot. But everything that we're saying, obviously, we don't have a legal background. We are just taking the information. So, you know, please make your own mind up about this. We do think and want you to write comments on this video if you're watching this on YouTube to actually fully understand everyone's opinion. But yeah, sorry, continue.
So yeah, basically what happened, they had a divorce. He paid a lot of money to obviously for her, but then obviously like he just covered the cost of whatever, you know, couples have between them. He covered the cost of everything. They then signed an NDA, yeah, non-disclosure agreement.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that was signed. So then it comes out that she wrote well, this is where the discrepancies come in. She's saying she didn't write it, but she put her name on it. But then she did like share it on Twitter or Instagram. But then the title of it was saying about her sexual violence / abuse that she's received.
Yeah, so the actual headline said, "I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. This has to change." And I know that she's saying she didn't write it, but surely anything that has your name against, you have to sign off, especially like, because the newspapers have to be really careful because you can then sue the newspapers.
Well, that's what Johnny tried to do with, I think it was the Daily Mail or the Sun. It was a UK paper.
It's probably one of those shit shows.
Because I think in their title they literally put like woman beater. So then he tried to sue them, but I think he lost. This is the thing, right? So she's saying that she didn't write it, that she just put her name on it. They wrote the post. When she went up on her trial, she literally said, they said to her, "Why are you here?" She said, "I'm here about something that I wrote." So she literally said, "I wrote." Physically, verbally, she said that.
Yeah, not even allegedly I wrote in like these inverted commas. Like she actually said, "I wrote."
And this trial is a pretty long trial. So the first 3 weeks was Johnny obviously having his say, and then having his witnesses and his psychological expert that did a whole analysis on Amber. So now it's only just changed over to Amber having her like 3 weeks, but there's currently a week break. So basically there's a week with just no trial happening.
Because the judge has to go on a conference, right?
Yeah, man.
So it's being put on hold for that.
Yeah. But this is do you know what? As well, Johnny Depp's legal team is just significantly better than Amber's. They're awful.
Well, this is the thing, right? Personally, for me, obviously, I'm not a lawyer. I never went to law school. I don't know. You know, I couldn't do it personally. But I think, would I feel comfortable going in where you know you're in a case that's going to be televised, you're going to be scrutinised? Would I want to do that? It seems like there is a joke going around that Amber got her team from Wish, because I don't understand. There's been so many discrepancies and so many things happen that you think, did these people actually study? And that Emily D. Baker actually did say that they are supposed to have a good reputation. And that's what I don't understand, if it's a tactic, because initially when they were, questioning Johnny, it was like they were trying to get him annoyed to show some anger. That was how I interpreted that. Like, oh yeah, so did you sign this? So this is your signature, right? Like they kept repeating stuff like that as if it was to, you and I would be like, yes, we did sign that. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what they wanted him to show, some anger, so the jury can see, like he does get angry quickly, but he has been very like humorous throughout it, and I don't know if that's going to have a negative impact from the jury. Obviously we're not the jury.
Yeah, I bet she's glad.
Yeah, but like, don't get me wrong, Johnny does have a past. Yeah. And a few people have actually been bringing up Johnny's past online, and yeah, he has some shit. Like, and I don't really do, like, we can talk about that if you want. I don't know if you actually know. So I actually found this Twitter thread, and pretty much this person was like, you're all out there dragging Amber, but, you know, Johnny does have this past. And I was like, okay, but the whole point of this trial is to discuss, you know, what's going on based off this trial, because also Amber hasn't got a very good past either. In her previous relationship, you know, I don't know if you've read about that, about the previous allegations of domestic violence there, and then she came out and said, oh, the police officer wanted to then arrest me when he found out we were a partner. It also came out that one of the police officers was a lesbian, so she was like, we haven't arrested you because you're a lesbian, but then she tried to say it was actually a man police officer, like a male police officer that did it. But yeah, so this is the again, I don't know a lot about this. I just found this thread and I thought it was interesting to kind of throw this out there. Right, Johnny Depp is best friends with Marilyn Manson.
And to be honest, obviously that's not his actual name, is it? Marilyn Manson, that's like his stage name or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know his actual name.
They actually brought that up to Johnny in the trial. Amber's team did. It's like, oh, you were friends with Marilyn Manson, weren't you? But that's not his name. So legally, they should be using his legal name. But obviously, to the jury, they're just trying to associate him with Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, didn't you do drugs with him? And he was like, yeah, just to try and get him to stop talking.
Like I did see that one. Yeah. But he is Marilyn Manson is Johnny Depp's daughter's godfather. And he also is a long-time abuser. Again, I haven't done research on that, but that's what this thread is saying, that Marilyn Manson against his partner is a long-time abuser, and Johnny's friends with them. And also that he groomed Winona Ryder. I think I butchered her name. Do you remember the actress from Beetlejuice?
Yeah.
When he was 26, he was like wanting to go out with her and she was 17. So people are trying to bring that one up as well. This lady here.
But no previous relationship has come out to say that he was abusive or anything, have they?
I don't know. So if we continue with this then, he also dated this girl here, Paulina Glenn, when she was between 17 and 20 and he was in his mid-50s. And then like they started bringing out like a bunch of like text messages that were said, and he actually got arrested for punching someone as well.
But what was the context in that?
So here it says Johnny Depp's history of violence: arrested in 1989 for assaulting a hotel guard in Canada, arrested in 1994 for trashing a hotel room in New York City, and being sued right now for assaulting a crew member. Again, I haven't done research on this, but this is kind of the stuff that's being brought up, and I do understand what they're saying, but is it relevant to this case? Because they're not like, at the moment it's like, it feels like people can't say that Johnny also was just because he has done stuff like that. And again, I'm not saying that's not, you know, important, but it's not valid to this case.
And this is what's awkward as well, because I feel like there's so much noise, especially because obviously he's like a massive celebrity. There's so much noise because when you actually look at what's happening, the actual court case is about whether or not her writing that article is what affected, it was defamation, and is that what stopped him from getting Pirates of the Caribbean 6? Mm-hmm. Because he's saying that's where most of his like loss of earnings came from, because I think it was verbally agreed. There's no like evidence or contracts, but it was verbally agreed that they would be willing to pay him around 20 million to do Pirates of the Caribbean 6, and then all of a sudden now they didn't want him in it. They didn't do it.
There wouldn't be any reason though for him not to be in the Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, he is the main.
He is Pirates of the Caribbean.
He is Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, that is, when you think of him, he is the first character you go to. So it would like, and the only job that he has kept throughout this that I'm aware is with Dior. But yeah, I do think that there is the whole base of this is over defamation, and they are just digging up mud.
And do you know what it is as well? This is where I think it's really important what like legal team you have, because I think as well, like even just the way they're being represented. So there was a psychologist who specialises in PTSD that analysed Amber Heard,
Is that Dr. Curry?
Dr. Curry. And when I say, the difference in just the two experts. So she literally sat down, she was really like I don't know, she was very personable. She was explaining everything to the jury. She kept it very, like, professional.
To the point, concise.
To the point, yeah. So she was like, so I did this test and this test. This is the numbers of this. She has characteristics of this. She turned around and said, bear in mind she's a PTSD expert. She's worked with people that have been in the war and soldiers, stuff like that. She said she doesn't have PTSD, but she was very trying to over-exaggerate. Mm-hmm. And like what the expert said, who literally diagnoses people with PTSD, she said that a lot of people watch war films, or, you know, you can just Google or just see films. People generally know in their own head, if you were going to say you had PTSD, what kind of things you would say or do. So she basically said she thinks that she's trying to fake having PTSD, but she kept it very professional. And like, even some of the stuff she said, it does
add up. It makes sense. You can see it.
Yeah. So for example, she said with Amber, a lot of the stuff she says, she has like loads of flowery words and language, mm-hmm. but then she doesn't really end up saying anything at all. Mm-hmm. So she does that a lot. And bear in mind, this is what's really important. Dr. Curry said, I've done all these results. I've wrote a 25-page report. And Amber's lawyers were being very abrasive, which I think is also a big deal. Mm-hmm. That when you're a lawyer, I think you need to kind of show some respect.
Yeah.
And then if you have to be abrasive to prove a point, like, oh, you didn't say this, then be abrasive. But like the lawyer said that we watch, when you're abrasive all the time, it kind of just makes you not like Amber's team, because you just think, God, why are you just being so abrasive all the time?
Yeah, and I think that goes for how some of the stuff that they've said, like when he hearsayed his own question about Johnny's finger, and he asked, I can't remember who was on the stand, but he asked about it, and he was like, oh yeah, so it was actually doctor, and he went, hearsay. And then the judge was like, that was your question. Yeah. And he was like, oh, like stuff like that. It makes you lose faith.
No, and do you know what it is? Do you know what it is as well? Dr. Curry, so they were trying to catch her out with some of the stuff she was saying. Dr. Curry is a very professional lady. You can tell that she knows her stuff. She was prepared. She literally, she'd ask her a question and she'd be like, right, well, do you mind if I could just refer to the report just so I don't get it wrong, just be accurate, because it's a very big report I wrote. And Amber's legal team, like, no, you can't. Just answer the question, yes or no kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And also her team was saying, what about the muffins? They were asking her about muffins because she said, she was like, oh, and your husband knew you had, you were going to be going against Amber and all this stuff. She was like, can I just clarify so we can stop talking about muffins? That's what the expert she said.
No.
She said, what happens? My husband knows when I've got a celebrity case because I have to do it in, like, everyone has to be out of the office basically. I didn't have time to go get the muffins, which I normally have in my office. So I just said to my husband, can you pop to the bakery and get me the muffins?
So why were they bringing up muffins?
Exactly. They're talking about muffins. It's crazy.
They also tried to, in front of the jury, act like she didn't have the years of experience. So they were saying, so you've been doing this for 8 years? And she was like, no, I've been doing it for 15 years and I have this many years of thing. And they were like trying to discredit her by and you think, why would you even say that? Because obviously she's going to know how many years. She's not going to go, oh, actually, sorry, yeah, got that date wrong. I've only been doing it for 4.
That's the thing. And that's why I didn't understand their line of questioning, because a lot of the times they would say stuff and you'd be like, oh, okay, they must have some evidence to back it up. Mm-hmm. And then the person would be like, that's not true. And then they would move on. And you think, what? So you just literally randomly throwing out random questions. They've got no substance to them.
I don't understand their tactic, but I do, after, Dr. Curry was saying about how she was acting as if it was like, she was acting as if she had PTSD, allegedly acting like it. Loads of DV survivors were like, yes, she is acting as if she read, oh, this is what you have to have PTSD, and as if she was acting to be that way. However, I am questioning why she got hired in a few films, because she can't act. No, like, it's literally, I watched her, she was crying. Like, she was like, you know, if someone's crying, she's like, and then I was just like this, but there was no tears. There was no red eyes. And I'm like, you are literally acting like you're crying, but there's nothing. And I can't understand the thought process, because by the sounds of it, it was a toxic relationship, like you said. I watched this body language expert who said that you can actually see that she has contempt. So she isn't showing any body language of someone that has actually experienced PTSD or DV. Like, it's contempt, and it's like it's a bit of a game. And did you see the clip? Again, this sounds like it's very Amber hating and bashing. It's not. We're just going by what was shown this last week. When she got off the stand, so bearing in mind, she sat on the stand, or on the chair at the stand, I don't know about the terminology, but when she's talking, she's looking at the jury, she's looking at Johnny, she's looking at everyone. If you are up there and that is your person who is supposed to have supposedly abused you verbally, physically, mentally, you wouldn't be able to look at them. And then when she gets off the stand, Johnny's walking towards the door, she's walking past, and she jumps back like, oh my God. And then the security guard says to Johnny, like, no. But in my head, I'm like, but you've sat up there, looked at him, looked around, and like, okay, then it's like it's all for an act.
But you know what I found as well? When I've been watching loads of videos, looking up comments, so many women have come forward that said, I've been a victim of domestic violence and abuse. And they basically, loads of women that have suffered have said, nah, we don't believe her. Mm-hmm. So that has to speak volumes. That the amount of women that have been in that situation are saying, she's not one of us. Because you wouldn't say that for no reason, would you?
No, but going back to the actual, layout of this case, I think Johnny has 3 counts against Amber, and he only has to win 1 for him to win the case. From that Washington Post, she just said DV. She said domestic violence and abuse, and it's down to the jury for how they interpret what abuse is. So if they can prove, if Amber's team can prove that he was verbally abusive towards, then that means that article isn't defamation.
Yeah.
Because of that was based off, and this is where I don't understand the legality of it, and why Emily D. Baker I think is a really good person to watch if you are, really following this case.
Okay, so before I go back on to the other thing, I think it's actually probably quite important as well to just show the contrast in their expert. So their psychological expert, she specialises in domestic violence, so not PTSD, and she has actually said that she does think Amber has PTSD, even though she doesn't specialise in it, and the person that doesn't think she does. But bear in mind, this was an assessment on Amber also. She's not seen Johnny Depp. She spent the majority of the time talking about Johnny, and she wasn't saying it from a professional standpoint. She was saying, oh yeah, he did this, he did that. Like, really, it was...
Didn't she have post-it notes?
Oh my God. Right.
She had post-it notes.
So, obviously, earlier in this conversation, I said that Dr. Curry would say, oh, I don't have my report, but if you want me to give you an exact answer, if you can pull it up, I'll tell you. That's what you're supposed to do, yeah? So, obviously, Dr. Curry has the experience. She knows how it works. She knows how to be questioned. This woman, yeah, Amber Heard's expert, has come up there and they've known she's reading something, and she went, it's just a post-it note, and she holds up this little piece of paper. Well, it turns out she's actually got pages and pages of her report that she's taken up there, and she's reading it. And they're saying, you can't do that because you're supposed to be giving a testimony, which is supposed to be your recollection. If you can't recollect it, you're just going to read a piece of paper. That is not a testimony. No. And you're supposed to be an expert. So this is a direct quote from Amber's expert, yeah? She said, I just don't want this to be a memory test.
Oh.
It's a testimony. That's exactly what it's supposed to be.
Oh my God.
So I actually think it's quite bad they let her keep it. So the following day they took it off her, so she wasn't allowed it, but they let her have it for the rest of that day, which I don't think they should have done, especially because they wouldn't even let Dr. Curry get her report in the way that she should have got it. Mm-hmm. And it was so bad because what she was doing, yeah, she was putting her glasses on and reading it because they said you can glance at it to refresh your memory, but you can't read it. But then she'd be reading it. So then they kept pulling her up. Oh, it was so embarrassing because this never happened with Johnny's expert. And then you've got her very first expert comes on the stand. She clearly doesn't know how any of it works, even though she said she's got loads of experience. And oh my God, the point that came back, yeah. So Amber's lawyer said to the expert, you can glance at it, you can't read it. And she was so sassy, this expert. She went, so I can look down at it, look up, and then just say it.
And I bet she pulled out the glasses like, oh, I can't see. My eyes need to focus a bit more.
Honestly, it was shocking behaviour. But also, this is what's happened recently this week, which I just think is so bad. And I think this is what's really going to let Amber down, if I'm honest. Because obviously she's really trying to play like he was awful, he was terrible. But her problem is her expression. Because she'll be like, oh, he slams my head to the table. And then they pulled up the pictures. She looks healthier than I bloody do on a normal day. Do you know what I mean? So she literally, one of the pictures, she was like, before the picture came up, she was like, oh yeah, there was hair everywhere. Like a chunk of my hair, my scalp was gone. I swear to God, you see the picture? She has less of a line than I have right now. Like, it just looked like a picture of hair.
Yeah, I do think this is where things like that to you and I and those that are looking from the outside, we're going to connect those dots. But sadly, I say sadly, you know, it's court law, but the jury cannot Google anything. They cannot speak to anyone. But that kind of stuff.
Those pictures were shown in court.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is there's other things that have been said that she's been caught out lying because TikTok is amazing. And I know Leah hates me talking about TikTok, but it is. The amount of evidence that people have found and shared on TikTok about this case. For example, the Milani cosmetic team, during the opening statement, her attorneys held up this cosmetic conceal and perfect all-in-one correcting kit and said that during this abuse she used this kit to like hide bruises and stuff, and although they didn't say the name, they held it up so you could easily see the name.
This one, they didn't say one like this.
They said this one specifically. And then the Milani cosmetic team on their TikTok came out and showed all the evidence. I don't know why they did. I think it's a great move. Great advertising, by the way, to the company is obviously why they stepped in. I think they saw a shot and they took it. But they actually came out and said that this came out a year after you would have used it. But obviously that team, the jury, would not see that information unless, I don't know if they can add extra evidence or if that will count as evidence, because they'd probably call hearsay, if I'm honest.
I mean, they probably have to try and lay a foundation to then be able to bring that evidence in. Yeah, so, I mean, they could bring that up. But my problem is as well, is that she literally said, like, oh, he was bashing my head against the bar, stuff like that. You see the picture, and she has one little bruise, which they had to circle because I would not have seen it on her face. Really? So you think, like, she said she had a broken nose, or she thought she had a broken nose. Like, you'd have massive black eyes, do you know what I mean? So I think she's saying all this stuff, and then you're seeing the pictures in court, and, like, I think I've hurt myself more, if I'm honest. Like, do you know what I mean?
But this is the thing, we're not diminishing if that happened. We're just saying how it's coming across. There's too many things adding up for it to seem like what was the thing that you told me about was where Dr. Curry said about with that personality she'd have random outbursts, and she claimed that Johnny Depp hit her, but then you told me that about grabbing and try and help.
Yeah, so basically she said that Johnny Depp headbutted her. But Johnny Depp said what actually happened is that, like, he was trying to hold on to her to stop her, and then they've bumped heads. But in her head, she's like, oh, he just headbutted me. Mm-hmm. But that's where the issue is.
The one thing I'd love to know is if she actually believes what she's saying, because if she does, then obviously she does have an issue that does need to be addressed, like whether it's through medication.
Also, this is very, very crucial, which the jury will find out, but not till the end before they're about to make their decision. They all have to give in their phone for text messages to be forensically analysed to make sure things haven't been deleted or that they can retrieve stuff. There's a deadline, they have to give their phones in by November to do this. So Johnny Depp did, which is why some of these bad text messages that he sent to his friend about hers come out. She didn't give in.
No.
And it's not like you get a choice. You have to give it in. The judge said she wants it all in by November, and they had to have it in by November for the forensic analyst to have enough time to do it. She didn't.
So has her phone been given in now? It will come out at the end.
Well, basically, it's too late now because the forensics don't have enough time to analyse her phone, so they can't retrieve anything from her phone.
But that's the thing. There's a few things that she slipped up on again, and I'm just going to bring it up just because if I don't, it's going to come out of my head, and I feel like it's really important. During one of the interviews about the film that they met on, I think it was the Rum Diary, was it? The film that they met on. She was being interviewed for it, and they said like, you know, I'm going to read it directly from here because I don't want to get it wrong. And she was asked like, you know, what do you think about working with Johnny Depp? And she said, I mean, who isn't a fan of Johnny? That's a given. He has been a cultural icon and a talented icon. And when she was on the stand, she said, I wasn't familiar with him. I wasn't a fan of his work. So literally, back in when this film came out, she's been interviewed for it. She's like, yeah, obviously he's a great icon fan. But then to the jury, she's saying, oh, I didn't know of him before. Like things like that, I just don't understand why she doesn't think she's going to get caught out on. And also, sorry, Leah, before I leave this little trail of thought, there was a bunch of things that she's been saying that people have been finding were taken from clips. I don't know if you've noticed this during how she's speaking, but it's like she's reading a script. Like, instead of just answering the question, she's going on these random long tangents. However, I think the reason, whereas Amber's team was very much stopping Johnny in his tracks, trying to agitate him, I think that Johnny's team are having like the opposite. They're trying to just let her talk and talk and talk to slip up, because a couple of days ago, she mentioned Kate Moss. She brought up the incident with Kate Moss, which means I'm pretty sure that Johnny can now bring, because I think she's on the list of...
I didn't know this.
Yeah, so pretty much, and I'll see if I have it word from word, because I just want to make sure... so she said, I instantly think of Kate Moss and Stairs, and then I just went for him, or something like that, or I hit him. I don't know the exact wording she used for her response. And then... because of that, I think it means they can now bring Kate Moss to the stand, and Kate Moss is obviously gonna say that didn't happen, because I think she came out and said that incident didn't happen. So again, we'll just prove, because after she said that, Johnny's attorney turned around and did like a little like yes. So it's like they are waiting for her to slip up in her lies.
Oh,
honestly, it's so interesting just to see it all unfold.
But do you know what's really interesting as well? Did you notice on This Week that basically Amber's lawyer, I think her name's Elaine, I really don't like her. She's just not personable.
Isn't one like Rotterborn?
She's just so abrasive all the time. But basically, she was kind of guiding Amber with how to answer. Instead of being like, look at this picture, tell me what this is. She'd be like, oh, and is this bruise? Do you know what I mean? And honestly, it was actually embarrassing the amount of times, because Johnny Depp's lawyers did have to say, like, objection, hearsay, or objection, because Elaine didn't actually realise what questions she couldn't answer. They had to bring the rule book up, especially of evidence, because they tried to put evidence in that Johnny Depp's team didn't have. And, this is the best bit. Johnny Depp's lawyers went to go and talk to the expert, Amber's expert. They had the evidence, which was the lady's report. Amber's team did not have it.
No.
How do they not have the paperwork from their own expert with them up there?
How many minutes have been wasted though in this actual trial of them trying to find documentation? Like, they want to speed up everyone else, but they're like, 5 minutes, just need to find this report. It's actually, I would love to know what's going on, but if you actually see the relationship that Johnny has with his attorney and his defence, and then Amber with hers, like, he's joking around, he's laughing, he's talking to them, he says goodbye to them at the end. She doesn't know. She walks in, she's like, you're right, sits down. Like, I don't understand.
I saw her hug them the other day, to be fair, and she was...
she's now upped it to a hug.
My problem is with the whole situation is that it's like she'll say one thing and then it doesn't make sense. Do you know what I mean? And I just think, like, as a jury, like, imagine what we feel watching it through the TV. When you're physically there, are you going to actually believe someone when you can see them crying when there's no tears, and then a second later they've snapped out of it and they're answering normally. If you were to watch that in person, would you believe that? Would you get that feeling from her?
I don't know. I've sat in court once.
What?
Yeah, I wasn't being like prosecutor or anything. Like, you can actually, in some cases, go and sit in. And I actually went and sat in it. It's a very long process, even for something as, I'm not going to say small because I can't remember what it was, but it was still a case where people got found guilty, but it wasn't to like this magnitude of being televised. And I feel like in that time they must get really bored. There's a lot of waiting around. So I don't know if that would then work towards in anyone's favour. But I don't know if you noticed a couple of days ago when she was on the stand, she had a tissue in her hand and she held it up to her nose, and it was really weird because she held it up to her nose. It was actually pushed down on one nostril as if like allegedly like sniffed something, and then she takes the tissue away and then wipes her nose with her hand, and I'm like, what the hell and everyone on the internet's like, did she just snort something? And again, another one, she held the tissue to her nose, held it, pretending to look like she was crying, a flash happened, and then she carried on. Yeah. Like, it is all so, if she didn't have all these eccentric stuff that she was throwing out there, like, and this is going to sound really bad, but I saw someone's TikTok where they were like, if I was to cast the TV special of this trial, who would I cast as whoever? And they said they would cast Amber Heard as Kristen Stewart, but you know, like Kristen Stewart acting from Twilight, like no hate KS, I love Twilight, I still to this day, but I've never seen Amber Heard act, and if that is her acting, I don't think she's very good, but I don't understand what's going on. And we've said this a few times, I usually watch this when I'm at the gym, like I have it on, and I was saying to you, wasn't I, she kept saying about the trip where they went away, was it to does it begin with B?
Yeah, Bahamas.
And she was saying about Lily Rose, Johnny's daughter, and the judge was like, you can't say that, and she was like, oh okay, and then carried on speaking and kept saying it. She's like, no, you can't say that. Like, she's not here to, she isn't, I don't think she's on the witness list or anything. No. So you can't say something because then it becomes hearsay and they're not there to defend themselves. And, but it was just towards the end of the day. And then they showed these text messages from Johnny, obviously the horrifically written ones. And, then they were like really taking time between each text. And then it was at the end. So it was like they were trying to set doubt onto the jury. I'm really blown away, and I'm really interested to see what the next couple of weeks are going to hold.
Well, do you know what it is as well? Like, the problem is they're really trying to hammer the fact that obviously his drug use and stuff like that, which I'm pretty sure she's got a fair bit of drug use in her past.
Didn't they do stuff on the plane to was it Russia or something? Like they were both doing drugs.
But the point is, he's been very open about the fact that he did have an addiction to prescription drugs and stuff like that. But she was literally like, oh yeah, he'd go on these benders, he'd be really out of control, and then they've just shown pictures of him asleep in a chair.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Like, he could have just fallen asleep, but she'd be like, snap.
But he even said that when he takes those prescriptions, they knock him out but not knock him out where he's like, he blacks out, knocks him out where he's asleep. And then she's just showing pictures of him asleep in a chair. It's like, okay, well, you're just showing us that when he takes tablets, he sleeps.
Again, though, this whole podcast does sound like an Amber bashing.
No, but do you know what? Yeah, it kind of is. No, do you know what? Because I'm not going to try and be politically correct. I'm not trying to be politically correct. Because at the end of the day, yeah, like, domestic violence has got to be one of the most awful things that could happen to someone. But for the so many people that have suffered domestic violence themselves to say, like, we don't even believe her, what does that say?
That's the thing. Again, like, we still have a good couple of weeks ahead of us. But from everything that we've mentioned in this video...
Oh, and also we forgot to say that she said that she was going to donate loads of money to a children's hospital and domestic violence, and she didn't.
Wasn't it 7 million? It was the money she got from JD.
Yeah, that's what she said, and didn't.
Do you know she got the dogs in their divorce proceedings? And I don't think she has those dogs now. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you're watching this.
I don't know.
But she also called her dog a little terrorist.
Jesus Christ. Obviously, her allegations that, you know, there was a lot of sexual violence, he was physically, mentally abusive, all this stuff. And then she buys him a massive knife that says until death. I don't think that sounds like someone that's scared of their abuser.
No, that's I forgot about that. There's little thing. I think. Don't get me wrong. I think Amber does have a troubled past, and again, I think Johnny does have a troubled past. But I think a lot of the stuff that's now coming to court and also coming to light as well. I think a lot of people actually lost respect for Johnny when this all happened. You said the UK trial, when obviously he got dropped by a bunch of people. I do think this case needed to happen.
Do you know
Absolutely.
what? And this is why I think that in Johnny's mind, even if he loses, because to him it's not about the money, is it? Like, he just wants to be able. That's why he also wanted it televised, because he just wanted to be able to actually speak his truth and just get it. So this must actually be quite therapeutic, like a weight off his shoulders, because at least this way, like, he's not going to be portrayed as this horrible person, because they were both toxic. But at the end of the day, they signed an
NDA. Leah's developed a new drug and document.
They signed an NDA, and she shouldn't have released something when, because the whole point of it as well, even if she allegedly isn't talking about him, everyone is going to associate that article with him. So, and like his lawyer said, people these days, they'll read the title and make their own decision about what the article says. They won't actually always read the article.
Oh my God, people still watch a whole video and still take a view that isn't correct from what's portrayed.
Oh,
that's the internet. But I do think that Amber's career, based off of this trial, I would say is over.
I didn't even know who she was.
Well, I remember watching Aquaman, but I wouldn't ever say I knew of her.
Like, you didn't know that she was that woman in Aquaman.
No, I just knew of Aquaman.
Yeah.
But I do think that she shot herself in the foot. The internet does not forgive. It does not forget. And the fact that now that their petition to get her off Aquaman 2...
It was like 3 million or something.
Yeah, like the fact that it's now that high... And I think she's just not doing herself any favours. Like, if this truly happened, she needs to be up there. None of this theatrics. Did you see what she said when her dog got stung by a bee? She pulled this really weird, like, face. And I'm just like, what? Like, go up there, tell the truth, tell your truth, you know, and don't do this.
And you know what? I think you can tell what parts she was being honest at, because she would just talk like a normal person would talk. And then you could tell when she was lying, because everything would be like this massive thing that she was saying with all these descriptive words.
Did you see when she was doing that and then someone interrupted her and her face was like straight to a bitch face? She looked towards the judge like as if I just got interrupted.
This is the thing. And to be honest with you, like, did you see when, I don't know if it was her lawyers or his lawyers, but said to Johnny Depp, like, oh, you tried to control her career. And then he said, how do you think she got Aquaman?
Oh. But do you know what? Kind of true. Like, how many, like, relationships are elevated based off of who they're with? Like, this is nothing to do with this trial, but look at the Ariana Grande and Pete Davidson thing. As Ariana, like, released a song, didn't she, about it, and saying that he wouldn't be where he was without her, even though he was an established comedian.
He'd been doing it for like 10 years prior, yeah.
But I do think that relationship probably brought him out more.
Yeah,
and obviously, and now the Kim Kardashian one.
yeah.
But that's where I do believe that probably her relationship with Johnny Depp did elevate her career. I still didn't know her before, so clearly not into the genres I watch. But yeah, I would love to see how this plays out now. And I think that if they do bring Kate Moss onto the stand, and I think they can now do that because Kate was mentioned by Amber, it's going to blow the case wide open.
But the thing is as well, I think it's really important to say, obviously you can say like, oh, Johnny Depp's expert could be biased, and you can say her could be biased. But when they had one of the calls to their penthouse, the police officers that were there, they're police officers. They're not going to lie and take sides because they have a duty as a police officer to tell the truth. They literally said, they were like, oh, why was you called here? They said, oh, a domestic violent call. Okay, so does that mean you was looking for any bruising on their faces, anything like? Yeah, we were. Did you see anything? No, we didn't. Did you have good lighting? Yes, we did.
Yeah, they're not going to lie. Did you see? I couldn't find the video and I wanted to find it to show you, but I can't find it. This was a good couple of weeks ago, but it was saying that at an event she had bruising on her hand.
Okay.
And on the non-event photos, I think someone snapped a few and she had like, yeah, where her knuckles were bruising. But when it came to the release, like pictures, again, allegedly, because I can't find it to back it up, but she was, that hand was never captured. It's just stuff like that there's too many coincidences that are coming up. And don't get me wrong, she could have got really angry and just punched a wall. Like,
well, if it's on your knuckles, yeah. Did you see, though, basically, there was a comparison picture that's going around on the internet, yeah, of like Rihanna when she got punched in the face by Chris Brown.
How does he still have a career, by the way?
But what her face looks like, yeah, obviously bruised, swollen, and then she obviously had to like come away from all her career stuff for a while. Then there's a picture of Amber the day after she allegedly got assaulted.
Was it for the James Corden
on the James Corden show?
Yeah, and
apparently she had a split lip and everything, couldn't see nothing.
And she had to have the really dark red lipstick to cover it. And she said that she had to ice something all night. But I'm not being funny. When I get really bad spots and I try to ice them all night, or I'm really clumsy and I bruise myself a lot. I do not believe icing a bruise overnight would make it go. And makeup is so hard to cover bruising. It's easy to put bruises on than it is to cover them, isn't it? Don't get me wrong, I'm not disputing that things will happen and they were probably toxic for each other and there's evidence that they verbally both abused each other. Yeah. But I do think that I don't know where this case is going now. And I think once, obviously, this week break is up, to then have another recap in a couple of weeks.
But do you know what, yeah? Amber's going to be in for it when they come back. Do you know the lawyer that's going to question her is going to be a woman?
Really?
Which was obviously strategic from Johnny Depp's team. But the problem is that, his lawyers are so good. You saw how good they were when they had that day break from the expert witness. But now they're going to have all this time to go over everything she said, find backup evidence. So for Amber, the timing of this isn't great. The fact that she's given her side, they haven't questioned her yet. And they're literally going to have a week break to literally every little thing she said, backup evidence.
I think I would want to go second in a trial if I was ever being...
Johnny Depp, I think, has been fortunate to actually go first because we got the luxury of seeing Dr. Curry first. How professional she was, everything she said about Amber. So then you're going to be looking out for what she says. Then you have the comparison of when Amber's expert takes a stand and you're like, we're automatically already liking Dr. Curry because she is very personable anyway, but you can tell she knows her stuff. So then when you see the comparison of how bad she was, you're just comparing her to Dr. Curry all the time.
True. That's true. I think a lot of this, like you said, a lot of stuff's going to come out the woodwork now, and they have time to get the evidence. They do, and it's going to... I'm strapping myself in for it.
Do you know what? This is going to be crazy. But, yeah, like we've said many times, we do think he was toxic on both sides. But ultimately, if someone is going to release something that may not be the truth, then they should go under trial for the public to make their own mind up as well.
And if there's anything that, like we said in the beginning, that we've missed, that you think people listening to this, watching this, should be aware of, write it in the comments. I'm literally loving reading all the comments on the videos to actually fully understand and see people's different perspectives and what they've picked up and what they've noticed. But we hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. Do all the YouTube stuff we need you to do. And we'll see you next time for Candid. Bye.